Welcome back to the deep dive. We are taking a deep breath today and diving into a stack of sources that don't just chronicle a war. They chart this complex, absolutely excruciating journey of recovery, both personal and political, during the darkest days of the Yuuzhan Vong invasion.
It's an intense period.
It really is. When we open this story, the galaxy is just... It's completely transformed. The map of the New Republic has been ripped apart. Worlds that you always thought were staples of galactic peace are just gone. Stars have literally changed hands. And our greatest heroes, I mean, they're being hunted like common criminals. The core worlds, the places we always, assumed were safe and secure, are now operating under the shadow of the Vong's overwhelming presence. And that's especially true after the catastrophic fall of the Duro system. It's a world on the absolute brink of despair.
And that desperation, that forms the bedrock of our deep dive today.
Sure.
Our listeners shared sources that are centered specifically on Han and Leia Solo during this absolute nadir of the conflict. So our mission is sort of twofold. We need to extract the macro-level political collapse, this whole conspiracy that seeks to destroy the Jedi Order. And at the same time, we have to analyze the intimate, crushing personal trauma that the Solo family is experiencing. We're really focusing on that sharp, painful intersection where political warfare becomes just brutally personal.
The stakes just could not be higher. It's been roughly 3 weeks since Duro fell, and we find Han Solo completely alone, just consumed by this vigil, watching over his wife, Leia, who is currently in a medically induced recovery.
And the sources immediately establish the crushing psychological burden Han is carrying. I mean, Leia isn't just wounded. She is actively fighting for her life against these stubborn necrotic infections in her mangled legs. That's a direct result of those insidious amphistaff wounds.
That's the physical threat.
Exactly.
Right.
But then you layer on top of that the deep personal catastrophe. Han is still wrestling with the trauma of Chewbacca's death. And that has created this massive, palpable emotional gulf between him and Leia.
Right.
And if all of that weren't enough, the galaxy is collaborating against them. You've got widespread treachery, led by the Peace Brigade, which is actively hunting Jedi. They're turning New Republic citizens into willing collaborators for the Vong. And this means their son, Jacen Solo, is also a prime target. So Han is trying to protect the two most important people in his life while feeling, fundamentally broken himself.
It really is the perfect storm of threats, both internal and external. Okay, so let's unpack the situation on Corellia. Han and Leia, they aren't hiding on some outer rim rock. They are in an isolation ward on one of the core worlds under a deep alias.
Which immediately tells you something about the state of the New Republic.
Absolutely. They distrust the local establishment. The sources explicitly call out the always erratic government of Corellia, and that distrust is critically justified because the Vong have just recently established a major base right on the sector's border.
And the sources offer this really profound glimpse into Han's internal landscape at this time. We see a man who feels brittle.
Brittle, that's a good word for it.
Yeah. He feels older, and he's deeply unsure of his place in the conflict after losing his lifelong partner, Chewbacca. And this feeling of self-doubt has manifested as this emotional distance, which is impacting his relationship with Leia. The text notes that in the few brief hours she has been coherent, Leia has been hesitant, more tentative, and reluctant to speak her mind around him.
That's heartbreaking.
It's painful feedback, Liz.
Oh.
Han retreats into his grief, and Leia retreats because she doesn't know how to reach him. This emotional estrangement is, I would argue, as dangerous as any physical Vong attack because it completely compromises their ability to operate as a team.
And the physical danger arrives very, very swiftly. The threat breaks right into the hospital isolation ward in the form of an assassination attempt. You've got 4 individuals posing as hospital orderlies, led by a woman named Roxy Barrel, and they attempt to infiltrate their room. But this is where the kind of technological infrastructure of the Star Wars galaxy becomes their protector.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
They're betrayed by the simplest thing.
Yeah.
Proper safety protocols. The MD droid that's monitoring the ward, it flags them with this cold clinical precision for not wearing the required breath masks and gloves.
Okay.
And in a wonderfully messy detail of galactic collaboration, the droid notes that the fake orderly's fingernails are absolute bacterial beds.
Ugh, that's such a great detail.
It's a perfect example of how collaborators often overlook the basics. They just assume their forged credentials are going to be enough.
Yeah, that detail, the dirty fingernails, is a great little nugget. But the assassination plot, it stalls not because of the droid, but because of Han's instincts.
Right.
He draws his blaster and, crucially, uses a quarantine override code to seal Leia's room shut. The imposters are now trapped in the hallway, and they immediately reveal their lack of sophistication.
Exactly. They're searching the data display for a human female with amphistaff wounds, which shows they were given incredibly specific targeting parameters, but they're completely confused by the actual medical terminology.
They don't know what they're reading.
Not at all. They mistake terms like thoracic lacerations, which, means wounds to the chest for the right patient, simply because of the word lacerations alone. They are blunt instruments, completely incapable of any kind of nuanced intelligence gathering.
And this next bit is just an astonishing demonstration of battlefield improvisation. Han realizes he can't just sit there and wait for backup that might be compromised.
He's on his own.
So he disguises himself. He uses a data pad, a lab coat, a cap, and a breath mask, and makes himself look like an official-looking medical technician. When he runs into the burly imposter, he doesn't shoot. He creates a panic.
It's vintage Solo. He's using deception and rumor as his first weapon. He confronts them, claiming they weren't wearing breathers and they hadn't checked the critical hazard indicator, and then he manufactures a threat completely out of thin air. He claims the indicator was yellow, signaling the need for masks due to a highly contagious new airborne virus he names Luma.
And he pushes the panic button by linking it directly to the existential threat. He suggests this virus might be a Yuuzhan Vong biological weapon designed to soften up Corellian populations.
The effect is instantaneous. The burly imposter and the man named Slug immediately clap their hands over their mouths, terrified that the virus is going down with every breath you take. They believe the Vong weapon rumor instantly.
It's a brilliant psychological move.
It is, because the Vong have weaponized everything, so this is a completely plausible fear.
But Roxy Barl, the leader, she isn't fooled. She's focused and she's dangerous. She challenges Han, noting that he's wearing patient slippers without socks, a small but telling slip in his disguise.
And it all erupts.
A brutal firefight erupts. Han is forced to stun Slug as he flees for a mask, and the rest just open fire, chewing through Han's flimsy plasteel cover.
And this is where the mystery deepens. Han is pinned down, trying to figure out where the last imposter, Dex, is. Amidst all the explosions and chaos, a repulsor gurney, unpushed, just glides into view and rams Roxy, knocking her off balance. Han fires, but when he checks the area, Dex is dead between the bacta tanks. But the surprising detail is the wound. It's a round hole in his chest, described as too small and perfect to be a blaster wound, at least an ordinary one.
What stood out to me here was the cold calculation involved. The woman in bacta tank 3, a slender human with lacerations similar to Leia's, had opened her eyes during the fight and seemed surprisingly calm. Han realizes almost instinctively that she helped him, likely using the Force, though she closes her eyes again immediately. He knows he owes her, but before he can even process this debt, Corellian security arrives. And they are, strangely, far more concerned with arresting Han Solo than investigating 4 bodies of would-be assassins.
That firefight was pure adrenaline, but what's terrifying is that it wasn't random. Han survived the blasters, but the question remains, was this an isolated attack, or does the corruption run deeper than just a few assassins?
Han's arrest immediately gives us a partial answer. Corsac arrests Han, but the political heat is just too intense. They release him quickly because the optics of arresting the husband of a senator while she lies critically injured are, they're terrible.
Awful.
More importantly, this is when Leia wakes up. She's coming out of her induced state, and though she's delirious, her political and intelligence instincts kick in instantly.
And she realizes immediately their cover is completely blown.
How?
Well, Dr. Nimby, the Jedi sympathizer who admitted her, and the Corsac agents, they all start using their real names openly. But her immediate focus is on a specific Corsac agent. Even through her haze and pain, she's trying to point and say thief because she witnesses the subordinate agents stealing critical intelligence from her satchel.
What did they take?
Her data pad, 2 data chips, and a recording rod.
And this is the crucial moment that elevates the attack from just a random assassination to a political conspiracy.
Absolutely. Leia notes that the agent meticulously avoided touching any of her credit chips or her credit case. This confirms the motive was purely intelligence, discovering where they were going next or what sensitive information they possessed, not monetary gain. When the enemy sacrifices money for information, you know you were dealing with a deep organizational threat.
And the political tension just ramps up instantly with the arrival of Thraken Solo.
Han's cousin.
Han's cousin. Thraken has been elevated to the position of Governor General of the Corellian sector, and the sources remind us why. He was hailed as a hero because he inadvertently destroyed a Hapan fleet using the ancient alien superweapon Centerpoint Station.
An action Leia had publicly and deeply despised.
Exactly. So his presence is just a profound conflict of political and ethical ideologies.
It's a clash of moralities. Thraken represents a ruthlessly pragmatic military-first approach, symbolized by using a weapon that can literally move stars. Leia represents the foundational ethics of the New Republic.
And she doesn't miss a beat. Despite being critically wounded, she immediately launches a verbal counterattack, refusing to hide, even knowing there are holocams right outside the door. She calls Thraken an insult to the office, proving her political fire and her sharp wit remain completely intact.
Her commentary is so scathing, so damaging, that Thraken is forced to retreat and close the door before the media can capture any more of it.
So the subsequent negotiations are tense, but the stakes are simple. Thraken wants them gone, and he wants them gone within the hour.
And Thraken's motivation is based purely on avoiding giving the Yuuzhan Vong a reason to attack Corellia. If Han and Leia, two highly visible Jedi targets, stay, they become a lightning rod.
But there's a deeper fear there, right?
Oh, a terrifying strategic worry. The Vong might check if Centerpoint is operational. If it is, Corellia becomes a priority target.
This is where Han finds the leverage. He uses the only thing Thraken truly values: power and survival. Han essentially threatens him with the complete loss of their most vital resource, their son, Anakin Solo.
Who is the only person known to have the ability to fully activate Centerpoint Station.
Exactly. Han guarantees that if Thraken harms them or allows them to be captured, Anakin will never, ever help Corellia again.
It's a ruthless, but you have to admit, effective piece of blackmail. Thraken has to let them leave alive to preserve the potential, however remote, of being able to control that superweapon. His pragmatism overrides his political desire to eliminate the Solos as obstacles.
So now they have to execute the escape. This requires this elaborate lie to save the mysterious Jedi woman in Tank 3. Han and Dr. Nimby conspire to smuggle her off-world. Han claims she is their daughter, Jaina Solo, who was injured at Duro and needs immediate discreet transfer.
Right, but they need a compelling cover story for the patient, Master Elisa, who's actually older, around 30, well-muscled, and crucially has these distinct green eyes.
And Jaina's eyes are brown.
Exactly. A nurse points out the discrepancy, but Leia, still recovering, plays along perfectly. She claims Elisa uses cosmetic tinting to hide her eye color, establishing the cover.
Han then finishes the job by blackmailing Thraken one last time. He just says, "Could you prove it to the Yuuzhan Vong?"
And Thraken has to accept the lie, because the risk of alerting the Vong by questioning it is just too high. This allows them to quickly procure a portable back-to-tank for Elisa's transport.
So during the chaotic escape to the Millennium Falcon, they encountered this extremely unusual potential ally. It's the Arcona who had been waiting in the hospital lounge.
Izal Waz.
He introduces himself as Izal Waz, a first-class YT-1300 co-pilot looking for a ride. And he flashes a lightsaber, confirming he's a Jedi, but he's not one, Han knows.
This is a huge moment for Han, who is just steeped in paranoia and trust issues right now. Leia wants to take him immediately, recognizing a fellow Force user in distress, but Han insists on testing him.
He gives him a quiz.
A rigorous technical quiz on Falcon specifics, and Izal passes the emergency ion drive sequence and the emergency shutdown procedure. But here's the critical detail. Han asks where the vortex stabilizer is found.
A trick question.
And Izal correctly answers that he doesn't know, because it's not a crew serviceable part.
And Han smiles. He passed the test of authenticity. No one who fakes being a pilot would know which parts are actually accessible to the crew versus deep maintenance.
But we learn later that Izal is definitely unconventional. He's the same salt-addicted Arcona who caused a huge scene at the Jedi Academy after consuming a 3-month supply of salt in what was known as the infamous Kent's Nerfloaf incident.
What a strange character introduction.
It is, and it immediately frames him as this troubled, unconventional Force user. It confirms that the new Jedi Order, in wartime, is drawing on some very peculiar resources. This suggests that the Jedi operating outside Luke's formal structure are not the polished heroes we expect, but are perhaps operating on desperation and necessity.
So they launched the Falcon, flying under the alias Shadowbird. But Han's initial concerns about Corellian political corruption are immediately justified. Control, likely tipped off by the spy who stole Leia's datapad, compromises their position by announcing the ship's true name over an open channel. Millennium Falcon is cleared for immediate departure.
The enemy knows exactly who and where they are.
Han, in a moment of sheer desperation and relying on his decades of experience, executes a high-G over-city vertical climb. He pushes the ship to 120% of its normal specification, trusting the specialized military alloys to hold them together.
It's an act of pure desperation and self-reliance, forcing the ship to perform dangerously beyond its comfort zone just to escape the immediate Corellian planetary defenses.
So the crisis accelerates once they hit hyperspace. Han notices several suspicious details in the crew quarters. Small black flakes and disassembled transmitters.
His paranoia, which has been honed by years of smuggling and recent treason, just flares up. He confronts Izal Waz, blaster set to stun, assuming betrayal.
And what does Izal say?
Well, Izal admits he was the mysterious patient who helped Han in the back-to-parlor and confirms he is a Jedi, but he's still struggling with his salt habit and his own issues. He says he delayed revealing himself because he was waiting for things to settle down, which is a pretty weak excuse that Han is ready to dismiss entirely.
But Izal's explanations are cut short by a massive proximity alarm. They drop out of hyperspace and are immediately confronted by a wall of ships, this motley collection of old T-65 X-Wings and Y-Wings. This confirms the enemy knew exactly where they were going.
So the Falcon had a homing beacon.
A homing beacon that had been planted somewhere outside the Corellian system, just lying in wait for their jump. Han, acting on pure instinct and suspicion, fires a stun bolt into Izal's ribs, dropping him over the side of the seat.
And now comes the true reveal, and it's a chaotic one. As the pirate fighters open fire, Han's powerful quad laser cannons engage automatically and accurately, vaporizing the lead starfighters with impossible precision.
So someone else is on the guns.
Someone else is on the guns. Han leaps up, demanding to know who it is, only to be shoved back down by a massive scaled reptilian figure in a brown Jedi robe, an adult Barabel named Teazar.
Teazar and his sisters, Bella and Krasov, are Barabel Jedi Knights, and they're hatchmates, which is a cultural term defining siblings who share this deep, unbreakable bond from birth.
Right, and they identify themselves as part of a highly unconventional group known as the Wild Knights Squadron, flying those ancient patched-up starfighters. They were Master Elisa's security detail. And Teazar's mother, Saba Sabatine, was trained by Elisa, making Elisa the master of our master.
This just instantly expands the context of the Jedi Order. These are Jedi who operate based on familial and cultural bonds, separate from the formal hierarchy Luke is trying to build.
And their immediate concern is the tactical situation. The pirates are trying to herd the Falcon into a classic pirate trap. Dead ahead is a massive fast freight, later identified as a Lancer-class customs frigate, equipped with a huge visible tractor beam.
The cultural shock is so evident here. Teazar immediately demonstrates the fiercely protective nature of Barabel culture when he growls at Han, "You would surrender your mate."
Meaning Leia.
Meaning Leia, who is currently in the back in a portable Bacta-tank. The idea of surrendering family is just abhorrent to him.
So Han is forced to trust Teazar's unconventional navigation, which involves abandoning their planned destination of Commoner for a Barabel rendezvous. And Han, skeptical, asks how Teazar knows the rendezvous is still safe.
And what's the answer?
Teazar replies that his master, Saba Sabatine, is not dead yet, and this is the critical insight into their operational method.
They share a unique hatchmate force bond that allows them to feel if Saba were to die.
Exactly. Teazar confirms their continued vitality is sufficient proof that the rendezvous is still viable. They don't rely on holonet messages or datapad confirmations. They rely on an intrinsic biological and force connection. And this is fascinating because it bypasses all the espionage and technological compromise that have plagued the New Republic.
And their tactical skill is exceptional. Han pretends to power down and surrender to the frigate, flying directly into its open hangar bay where the massive conical tractor beam projector is clearly visible.
And this is where Jedi precision meets military strategy. The Barabel sisters, Bella and Krasov, are ready. They use the Force to guide their shots, successfully targeting and destroying both the visible main projector and the barely visible backup tractor beam projectors tucked against the ceiling.
All in the same split second.
All in the same split second.
That surgical strike is what allows the Falcon to escape the tractor beam's hold and jump to light speed toward the Barabel rendezvous. It was just a beautiful display of coordinated, non-traditional Jedi warfare, executed with smuggling audacity.
The Barabel rendezvous, however, is revealed to be a collaborationist setup, a tactical trap designed to lure and destroy.
The target is the Star Roamer, a Demorian medium freighter registered to Duro shipping. And this detail is absolutely critical for you, our listener, to catch. Why? Because Jacen Solo had already linked Duro circumstantially to treason and the Peace Brigade collaborators in a prior report to New Republic intelligence.
This confirms the larger conspiracy. Elisa, the Jedi Master, had known about this Duro rendezvous before she was injured. The Wild Knight's strategy is complex. Lure the collaborators, confirm the location, and seize the goods.
So they were walking into a trap, but they knew it was a trap.
Precisely. Teaser confirms their goal is to seize the Bacta and supplies from Duro. The arrival of a Yuuzhan Vong Corvette analog picket ship shortly after they arrive confirms the entire area is a trap, with the Vong predictably rushing to engage the Wild Knight squadron.
Amidst this battle, Leia, who is still recovering in the back of tank, has her major aha moment. She realizes the multi-layered attacks, her assassination attempts, the Corsair spy, and the elaborate ambush in space were not about what she knew or what she remembered. They were about what the enemy feared she knew.
And the sources capture her internal realization perfectly. Proof. Someone thinks I have proof of Corsair's collaboration. This shifts the entire context of their struggle. They weren't hunting a target. They were trying to suppress a key piece of evidence. The traitors feared that Leia, as a former chief of state and a senator, possessed the concrete paper trail that linked Corellian security and industrial players to the Peace Brigade. This realization empowers her instantly, changing her mindset from patient to active commander.
So the action erupts into the Battle of the Bacta tanks. The Wild Knight squadron, all Jedi pilots, attacks. Teaser flies a wee-wing, and Izal Waz, the salt-addicted Arcona, flies his own stock freighter, the Sure Shot.
And these Jedi pilots are highly effective. They integrate these ancient, reliable starfighters into complex combat maneuvers. They quickly disintegrate the predictable Vong picket ship.
But the Star Roamer, the freighter they need to capture, is driven by pure terror. The crew, knowing the Vong are unpredictable allies, tries to escape toward the gravity well of a nearby white dwarf star.
It's a clever tactical maneuver. The roamer manages to snag Izal Waz's ship, the Sure Shot, with its tractor beam, and drags it toward the white dwarf. This forces Izal to either release the roamer or risk being incinerated by the star's radiation and gravity.
A desperate move by the collaborators. However, the rest of the Wild Knight's headhunters harry the roamer, eventually allowing Han to bring the Falcon in for the boarding action. Han and Leia board the Star Roamer with the 3 angry Barabels.
And the boarding is swift and strangely anticlimactic.
How so?
The crew instantly surrenders or abandons ship via escape pods, heading straight into the white dwarf's gravity well. Izal later whispers to Leia that they were so afraid of the 3 angry Barabels, these scaled, intimidating figures wielding lightsabers, that they chose certain death in the star's gravity over capture by them.
Wow, so they secured the objective.
They did. The Star Roamer is seized with enough Bacta to fill a lake.
Now for the critical intelligence analysis that connects the assassination attempt to the political elite. Han and Leia, now safe, begin reviewing the intelligence. C-3PO's holonet searches quickly reveal the necessary paper trail, a link between Roxy Barrel, the assassin leader, and the vice president of fleets at Duro.
And this is where the conspiracy turns from military collaboration to high-level political corruption. Critically, this dead Duro VP owned a significant equity interest, nearly 0.001%, valued at over 100 million credits in Kuat drive yards, KDY, the manufacturer of the Lancer-class frigates used in the previous ambush.
That microscopic equity share is the smoking gun. It's the perfect paper trail.
It is. And though the VP is dead, Han connects KDY, Lancer-class frigates, and the distinct haughty-quaughty accent of the frigate captain they spoke to during the ambush. This entire coordinated multi-system effort had to be orchestrated by a powerful political figure connected to the highest levels of Corellian and Quadi industry. That focus lands squarely on Senator Viqi Shesh.
The implication is explosive and terrifying.
Absolutely. Viqi Shesh, a leading member of the New Republic Senate, is the political mastermind orchestrating multiple assassination attempts on Leia's life because she fears Leia has the evidence connecting Duro to KDY and, by extension, to the Peace Brigade. And this is all happening concurrently with Shesh driving the appeasement vote in the Senate.
Right, the legislation designed to outlaw the Jedi Order entirely and accept a truce with the Yuuzhan Vong that would save the core worlds while sacrificing the Outer Rim.
Leia holds the key to neutralizing the Jedi's single greatest political enemy.
So if they can expose Shesh, they don't just solve an assassination attempt, they potentially save the Jedi Order from political dissolution.
Exactly. With the massive amount of Bacta secured, the sources shift focus entirely to the dual tracks of recovery, the personal healing of the Solos and the aggressive political counterattack. Leia begins intensive physical therapy using these cybernetic exercise braces prescribed by the Jedi healer Silga.
And this is not just mild physical therapy, this is brutal, agonizing work. 50 circuits of the empty pool, pushing muscles and nerves damaged by necrotic infection. Leia describes the constant aching pain as 100 times worse than childbirth.
And she struggles. She often stops, which leads directly to a necessary and violent confrontation with Han.
This is the emotional climax that the critique demanded we spend some time analyzing. Han, desperate and still grieving Chewbacca, is pushing her relentlessly. He can't tolerate the thought of her being permanently crippled. The resulting argument forces them to finally, honestly, address their marital rift and Han's devastating emotional withdrawal after Chewbacca's death.
And Leia confronts him directly. She points out that he certainly ran after Chewie died, leaving her alone to face the political fallout and raise the children. But she also turns the accusation on herself, making this crucial admission.
What does she admit?
She says she had spent years trying to rebuild what I lost when Alderaan was destroyed, realizing only now that she already had everything she needed with Han and the children. She was emotionally compartmentalizing her life, using political work as a shield.
And Han aids her halfway. He offers an apology born of intense pain, a humility he hard-earned over the last year. He apologizes for concussion bombing their family with his uncontrollable grief and his desire to lash out, recognizing he abandoned her when she needed him most.
Their reconciliation is solidified when Leia, shedding 2 years of worry lines, tells Han he won't escape the next time he needs help, and she pulls him into a kiss. It's a moment of profound earned grace, acknowledging that they are stronger together even when they're broken.
But the immediate threat remains. Their medical situation worsens dramatically. Leia's condition deteriorates and she develops these uncontrollable tremors.
Right, and Silgal advises immediate nerve splicing. This is a critical piece of medical jargon we should probably define for you, the listener. Nerve splicing is a complex, delicate neurosurgical repair technique. It requires the precise reconnection of severed or damaged nerve endings at a microscopic level.
So it's serious surgery.
Very. And Silgal's warning is dire. The delay in regular large-scale Bacta therapy caused by their hiding has significantly increased the likelihood that Leia will never walk properly again. They need to get back to Coruscant and into a specialized facility immediately for the surgery to have any chance of being successful.
And this medical urgency perfectly coincides with the political strategy. Luke sends a message confirming their conspiracy suspicions. Viqi Shesh's chief of staff, Palmont, has been desperately trying to track Leia's location, showing up at their apartment and harassing New Republic intelligence.
The evidence is circumstantial, but Leia decides it is sufficient for an immediate and public political assassination of Shesh's character.
So the audacious plan is set in motion. They return to Coruscant aboard a nondescript freighter, the Jolly Man, while using Izal Waz's ship, the Sure Shot, as a decoy. The Sure Shot flies under the old Falcon alias, Shadowbird, carrying a skeleton crew into the heavily mined space near Coruscant's orbit.
They correctly anticipate that the assassins will be waiting near Coruscant's orbital defense shell, and the trap is sprung immediately. The Sure Shot is successfully destroyed by a tiny rescue-launched mine, confirming the assassins were lying in wait and believed they had killed the Solos.
But Han and Leia are safely aboard a tiny Cinnabar Moon cloud car launched from the Jolly Man.
And the Barabel Jedi had launched the cloud car using the Force, making it appear to Coruscant control as just tumbling space debris. A brilliant, non-traditional use of the Force in a dense urban environment. When armed rescue launches, which are revealed to be assassins, pursue them, the escape becomes vintage Solo bravado.
When Coruscant control demands they slow down, Han unleashes his infamous, decades-old excuse to get clearance for a direct path to the med center. My wife is having a baby.
And Leia, despite her agony, plays her part, yelling, "It's coming!" The assassins, however, are relentless, pursuing them into the urban canyon levels of Coruscant. Han is forced to weave the cloud car through dizzying traffic patterns, exhaust stacks, and automated transports. The final assassin launch, attempting to tractor them, crashes into a bridge girder after Han causes their cloud car to duck beneath it.
It's a testament to the fact that even low-altitude smuggling skills learned in the gutters of the galaxy are absolutely crucial for saving the Republic.
They crash land safely, with Leia insisting, "I'll find the way home."
And the stage is set for the political climax. This final scene is Leia's tactical and theatrical masterpiece. She arrives at the Senate inquiry room, visibly injured, dressed in a utilitarian slight suit, facing a solid wall of newsvid light and a packed chamber, and she refuses to be wheeled in.
This is the critical strategic decision. Instead, she walks, with Jaina's help, using the Force to command her damaged legs into a reasonable imitation of walking.
This is agonizing and painful, but politically brilliant. This choice creates an immediate and powerful visual demonstration that draws massive media attention. It establishes her immediately as the victim, a war hero, physically broken by the treachery of collaborators, and her opponent as the unseen villain before a single argument is even made.
And Viqi Shesh, confident that Han and Leia were dead, didn't even bother to attend the panel. She only sent her chief of staff, pumped.
Big mistake. Leia moves with surgical precision. Knowing they must move boldly before Shesh can react, she launches her accusation. Victory number 1. She accuses Viqi Shesh of corruption and attempted murder, confirming that Chief of Staff Pompt was the one who provided their location to the initial assassins on Corellia.
And when the panel head, Enoro, a Bith female, questions Pompt, he confirms visiting the apartment. Enoro immediately relieves Pompt of office pending investigation, neutralizing the key operative right there in the chamber.
Victory number 2. Enoro then contacts Viqi Shesh, who is furious to find Leia alive. Overriding Shesh's desperate attempts to postpone the inquiry, Enoro announces a swished vote and suspends Shesh's senatorial membership pending investigation.
This action immediately neutralizes Shesh's influence and her ability to lobby, organize, and corrupt senators in the lead-up to the crucial vote. The political maneuver was simple. Neutralize the leader of the opposition using public spectacle and circumstantial evidence just long enough to swing the key vote.
1 week later, the political dust settles, and the Solos achieve total victory on both fronts. Leia is lying in the nerve splicing ward. Her doctor confirms the repair was fully successful, her legs will be fine, and she can walk again.
And simultaneously, the news comes through. Borsk Felia announces that the appeasement vote, the move orchestrated by Shesh to outlaw the Jedi, has failed by a decisive 2-to-1 ratio.
The political damage done by Leia's public testimony and Shesh's resulting suspension was sufficient to break the momentum of the appeasement movement and save the Jedi Order from political dissolution.
Right. And we find out in the postscript that the legal closure is murky. Pompt is found dead, having conveniently left a statement blaming himself for all the troubles in Shesh's office, obscuring Shesh's direct legal guilt. But the political goal was achieved. The Jedi are safe from the Senate.
So what does this all mean? This deep dive shows us a critical moment in the war. Han and Leia, despite being broken by personal grief and hunted by political enemies tied to the highest levels of industry and government, not only survived multiple assassination attempts, but leveraged that entire conspiracy, from the Corsac spies to the coup at Driveyard's contracts, to strategically save the Jedi Order politically. They turned their weakness into a weapon.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture, this experience fundamentally changes the strategic view of the Jedi. Luke Skywalker recognizes that the Jedi cannot survive with a centralized, visible military infrastructure that can be hunted, compromised, and outlawed by collaborators like Viqi Shesh. So he tasks Han and Leia, the smuggler and a diplomat, with establishing a secure, non-military support network.
He calls it a great river that can carry them wherever they need to go. A quiet, flexible means for the Jedi to move around the galaxy, gather intelligence, and operate outside of New Republic bureaucracy and collaboration. It's a perfect new purpose for the reconciled couple. Han, ready to wander the stars again with his wife, agrees immediately.
And Leia, the ultimate politician and pilot, seals the deal, confirming their complete reconciliation and renewed partnership, but with one crucial condition. I'm navigating. The person who was just fighting for her ability to walk is now taking control of their new galactic mission.
The discovery of the Barabel Jedi, the Wild Knights, was such a fascinating strategic counterpoint to Luke's formal order. They were operating completely outside of the known new Jedi infrastructure, relying on unconventional tactics and raw cultural bonds.
They only knew their master Saba was alive because they hadn't felt otherwise through their unique hatchmate bond.
Exactly. And if a third of the Senate still voted to outlaw the Jedi, even after Leia's heroic stand and the expose of corruption, that suggests the political fight is far from over. So this raises an important question for you, the listener, to mull over. With collaboration and political compromise running rampant, how many other quiet, hidden cells of unconventional Jedi, like the Wild Knights, are currently operating outside Luke Skywalker's knowledge? And what kind of ruthless, surprising, and necessity-driven methods are they using to win a war the established New Republic structures are struggling so desperately to fight?